we spoke earlier about the Sport Accord event, and the risk on that would eat up the lion's share of available funds within core GLA money.
That's actually only from the Olympic-related events budget.
Okay. So that would an earmarked budget, which Neil has discovered about this morning, to take money from the Olympics budget to fund the Sport Accord. Everything else is funded through other contingencies.
Everything else, on the budgets that you have in front of you, there are very clear lines for each event. There is Olympic-related activity budget, which the purpose of this was to have, I hesitate using the word slush fund for 2012, but we know that 2012 is going to be expensive, and there are bits of city marketing and city events that we want to do, so as many of Londoners' 7 million inhabitants get to participate in some way during that year, and that's a key priority for us, because we know that a very small percentage of Londoners are actually going to be able to go and watch a piece of Olympic sport due to the amount of how the tickets are going to be sold. So we need to invest in something that all Londoners... I won't bother answering if you won't listen.
Okay.
Great.
Mr. Ritterband, I don't think that's an appropriate comment from a publicly paid official. If the chair is consulting with his advisor, you still are addressing the committee as a whole.
Yep.
So I think you should withdraw that remark.
So have you finished your answer?
I don't know. What more would you like from my answer, Mr. Chair?
I don't think we'll call you again in this meeting. Shall we move on to Mike Tuffrey, question 7? You might as well go, really. I mean, there's not much point having discourteous...
Chair, I'd rather he stayed if possible, because I think there may be some questions further down that...
Well, I'm not going to call him to answer questions. If he's not prepared to afford respect to the committee, then he shouldn't really be on the workforce. Mike Tuffrey, question 7. Right. Harri is an executive director and can answer everything within his realm. Are members happy, Mr. Tuffrey?
Well, just before we leave this item, I'd like to ask the Chief Executive what action he proposes to take as a result of the incident that happened earlier.
You need to ask that question of the Chief of Staff, who has matters of conduct in that area.
Well, okay. I mean, Thank you. The proposition is that we cannot be in a position whereby any witness, certainly not a senior official of this authority, does not accord the committee a proper respect.
Well, I don't think that we ought to make a mountain out of a molehill. I think perhaps Mr. Ritterband felt his answers weren't being paid proper respect and said something, you then sought to elevate it. I don't think this is something which requires any particular disciplinary action. I think we all learn from experience of sitting behind, in front of your august committee and taking whatever comes. So I would simply counsel my colleague that he needs to understand that Assembly members will sometimes behave in a certain way to the committee, and it's important not to rise to any bait.
I'm disappointed at that answer, the answer I was hoping for, since there has been a previous incident, which I chose not to make anything of further at the time, but there is past form. I'm disappointed that you don't feel able to say that you will take the matter away, if indeed it is you who is responsible, to reflect and take appropriate action rather than...
Mike, and through you, Chair, I didn't say that I wouldn't take it away. I just said I don't think we should make a mountain out of a molehill. And obviously, I'll be talking to Dan, and indeed I'm sure there'll be a bit of a post-mortem on this side about how this side of the table has performed in response to all of your questions, and it will form part of that.
Well, I'm grateful for that because, and it's not personal, I wasn't the subject of it, I do think it is an important principle that the whole authority upholds, that we sit here not as individuals but as representatives of London, and the committee is owed a certain amount of respect, a high level of respect, for the function we have to take, whatever we think of the individuals, and we from this side owe a respect to the paid officials, and if anybody transgresses on this side, there are ways of dealing with that, So I hope that the matter is further reflected
I
upon.
think we could do with a debriefing from this side ourselves, actually.
Mr Ritterband did also make a sort of voce joke about the Labour Party fitting into a telephone box, which we all let pass. But again, you know, it's not really the kind of thing you expect from a professional officer
Can I suggest that we...
at a committee, and I think that...
That was in response to a suggestion with respect. That was in a light-hearted response to a suggestion from the chair that the Green Party could fit into a post box, which was not a sign of respect to this distinguished party.
I think banter between members of the committee is very different from
I think it makes sense for us
officer.
to move on. I think
it does paint a picture.
the only problem I have with the post-mortem is it requires us to be dead first. But with that caveat, I think a post, whatever the equivalent is, a vivisection perhaps is something that we need to do after this meeting.